my entry into the Airtable Hackathon. This is a game I built entirely in Airtable called Recipe for Disaster. It is a cooking game with the objective of getting as many points as you can before you die. This is your personal inventory here on the left. You can see the ingredients I already have in my inventory. This is the menu on the right of what you can build, or what you can make, I guess. So you can see every time I forage, I have a chance of taking damage, and every time I forage, I'll either find an item, and it's weighted by rarity. So, uncommon items, common items, you'll find those a lot, but legendary or rare items, you won't find those very often, and you have a weighted chance of taking damage while foraging. So you can see your damage goes down, or your health goes down when you take damage, and you can heal that by making some of these harder dishes. So if I craft this health is going to go up by 15 points for that one. And that'll also be logged here. See, it restored 15 health. I crafted the celestial cake. My health up here went up to 76. I've got my total dishes made. This is the game I'm currently playing. I can start a new game by going up here. There's a 20% chance to take damage each time you forage, which creates, some risk and urgency. It's not a game where you can just keep clicking it and forever. The recipe book over here is organized by difficulty, so you could just spam a bunch of easy to make, easy to get items for food, but you're not going to gain any health by that, and you're going to keep taking damage. So it creates the sense that you have to kind of go out here into some of this more advanced stuff. So each time you forage, you have a 20% chance to take damage, and it's a random amount of damage. You can come over here and make an easy recipe just to get points quick, but it's not going to heal any health. So you actually have to get some of these more rare and legendary items and make these, which will also give you more points. But all of these are automated. They all work. Everything's functional. It's all logged in the event log. You can see how many dishes you made. You can see how much health you've healed. You can see your score. Upon reaching 0 health, it will lock, everything will stop, and it'll say game over, and you have to start a new game. I built multiple interfaces to showcase the full game ecosystem here. You have your game stats and history. This is the high scores. All the games ever will be recorded here. There'll also be what dishes were made, how many points you got, so if you want a more granular breakdown. There's the recipe book with each recipe listed by difficulty and what it takes to make it. All of these images are generated in Airtable by an AI field agent, and the same thing with the ingredient codex. All these images are also generated by AI in Airtable, and they all are sorted by rarity. They all have a description. You can click into them, and this is a custom interface that I had Omni create, and then I edited the source code afterwards. Let's take a look at the backend. So this is the ingredients list. It's the master list with the rarity tiers. It is linked to the recipes, the player inventory, your current inventory. Obviously, all these things are needed to run the interface. You have your recipes, which, same thing, has descriptions, difficulties, the point values assigned, what ingredients are required. Some of these I had to use a formula because Omni didn't like putting a link into the custom interface. There's the player inventory, which is what you're currently holding. There's the completed dishes that you've made in each session. There's the game session, which each time you start a new game, it starts a new session here, a new record. There's the craft queue, which is how the crafting button is generated. There's the event log, which logs everything you've crafted, everything you've foraged for, all the damage you've taken, all the healing you've done. And the relationships are key. The ingredients link to both recipes, what they're used in, and player inventory. Each recipe is linked to its required ingredients, and that's where the formulas are really important. The can craft formula uses a roll-up and lookup system. It reaches into your player inventory, checks the quantities of each required ingredient, and tells you in real time whether you can craft this recipe. So these are real live formulas being used. It's not just a ready-to-craft button. The ingredients list has a roll-up that sums your inventory quantities. The recipe table looks at those quantities for its required ingredients. Then the formula checks, do you have at least one of them? If yes, a green check mark. If no, a red X. Game session is the central hub. It links to completed dishes to calculate your score via a roll-up. The health is tracked as a number field that gets updated by an automation. Status determines if you're still playing the game or if the game's over. The event log is linked to game session and creates a record for every single action you take. But the real magic happens in the automations. There are really only two main automations here, and they're both powered by JavaScript. First is the foraging automation. The trigger is just when that button is clicked, forage, which is really a checkbox, and once you hit the checkbox, it runs this script. The script uses a weighted random selection for common ingredients. So common have a 50% chance, uncommon is 30%, rare is 15%, and legendary is 5%. It builds an array weighted by these probabilities, and it picks randomly. This makes finding legendary ingredients actually exciting. It randomly gives you 1 to 3 of that ingredient, so the quantity is random too. If you already have that ingredient inventory, it adds to the quantity, and if not, it creates a whole new inventory record and links to that. There's a 20% chance to take 5 to 15 random damage. So the damage is a chance, but the actual amount of the damage is random. If you take damage, it updates your current health in the game sessions table. If your health drops to 0, it automatically sets your status to game over and logs your final score. It creates event log records for the forage action, any damage taken, and game over if applicable. All this, obviously, as you know, happens in about half a second. And then there's the craft automation, which is pretty similar. It's if the craft this checkbox is checked, it updates the record, it unchecks it, and then it creates a record in the craft queue. Then it runs this script. And the crafting script is doing validation and inventory management. So it finds the pending craft queue record and it gets the linked recipe. And then it checks if you have enough of each required ingredient by comparing the recipe's requirements against your player inventory quantities. And if you're missing anything, it fails gracefully, hopefully. It logs the error to event log. It'll say, it'll update the craft queue status to failed, and it'll tell you exactly what you're missing, so you'll know what ingredients are missing. If you can craft it, it loops through each required ingredient and deducts 1 from your inventory. So if an ingredient hits 0 quantity, it deletes that record entirely and keeps the database clean. You're not going to get a pileup of a bunch of different records. There's the completed dish record. It creates that, and it links it to your game session, which automatically updates your score through the roll-up field that is score. If the recipe has a healing amount, and harder recipes do, it adds that to your current health, and it caps at your max health of 100, so you can't go over that. It creates an event log record for the craft action and any healing, and updates the craft queue to completed status. So you can see the complete game history. Every forage, every craft, every damage tick, every heal, it's all recorded with timestamps. The beauty of this architecture is that the interface is purely presentational. All the game logic lives in the scripts, which means the game rules are centralized and easy to modify. Want to change the damage range, it's 1 number in the script. Want to adjust rarity weights, 1 object. Want to add any new event type, you just extend the event log table. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a complete game with risk and reward, and I think it's pretty cool. Thank you.